Through the journey of Trek Nation, the documentary, I discovered more of who I was. And I knew I wasn't going to be Gene Roddenberry. Of course, no one could be Gene Roddenberry, and I did not want to be Gene Roddenberry. But I truly loved Star Trek, and of course, I love Star Trek today. And it's not just the TV shows, but more than anything, the philosophy, the ideology. I want that future to be our future. We do not have to have starships that are named Enterprise, but I want humanity to succeed in that way. Essentially, the foundation was my way of saying, well, if I'm not going to create something that's entertainment based, that inspires people, maybe we can put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, and create an entity that finds these individuals, finds these organizations that are working towards the long-term advancement of our species.
Hello, 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 hello. Good evening. My name is Sabrina Cartan, and I just wanted to welcome all of you to the second installation of Creating the Star Trek Future, a live stream series presented by the Roddenberry Foundation in collaboration with Roddenberry Entertainment. I am the 2025 Roddenberry Ambassador, and I'm also a fan organizer and activist. So this means that I explore all of the ways that our favorite stories and pop culture and fandoms inspire us to create the world that we want to live in. As a longtime Trekkie, I've seen firsthand what Trekkies can do and accomplish because of their shared vision. Now, whether it's getting Star Trek back on the air or fighting to expand voting rights with Trek the Vote, there are several reasons that a 1970s White House aide called Trekkies the most important, or one of the most important constituencies in America. Would be pretty crazy if we were like the most important constituency in America, but I digress. Now, the Roddenberry Foundation supports and celebrates big, bold ideas that are creating the future that Gene Roddenberry imagined. One without hunger, poverty, prejudice, or greed, a world that continues to inspire us on and off screen. And tonight, we're joined by members of the Roddenberry community who, in their own unique ways and with great courage, are creating that better world. They're challenging prejudices, and they're creating amazing art, and they're fighting for LGBTQ rights through art. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first guest. Give me 1 second. I'm going to jump to, here we go. Technical difficulties. Now, hi, Jonathan.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jonathan Lykes is a Black queer artist, activist, and academic. I'm going to make you sit here and listen to how great you are. His interdisciplinary approach to art, activism, and anti-oppression work merges policy change, artistic expression, and activism. Combining these forms of social transformation and harnessing their synergy, Jonathan works to create awareness, promote personal healing, surmount institutional barriers, and generate systemic change. Jonathan's current position as founder and executive director of Liberation House merges his multidisciplinary artistic background with public policy reform, community engagement, and systems change work to teach liberation praxis by pushing the revolutionary edge of radical transformative movement work. Lykes is also the director of policy and programs for Black Youth Project / Gen Forward Survey. Lykes is also a co-founder and director of culture of Black Youth Project 100, a movement of young adults using a Black queer feminist lens to advocate for community and institutional change. Through BYP 100, Jonathan curated a freedom song and chant album, The Black Joy Experience, helping to teach holistic energy through the Black radical tradition. Welcome, Jonathan. How are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling really good. So honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. And now we're going to bring on two guests from the Star Trek community on the Star Trek side of Roddenberry. First, I'd like to welcome Michelle Paradise. Michelle is the showrunner and executive producer of the acclaimed Paramount Plus series Star Trek Discovery, which has been nominated for multiple Emmy, Saturn, and GLAAD Media Awards, winning the Saturn for Best Science Fiction Series and the GLAAD Media Award for Best Drama Series. Prior to joining Starfleet, Michelle wrote for a number of other series, including The Originals and Rogue, and she's also written several features. She holds a BA in English and French and a master's degree in comparative literature, and is a proud graduate of the prestigious Warner Brothers Television Writers Workshop. Yes, Paradise is her real last name. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. Jonathan, I'm so happy to meet you. That was awesome.
Oh, such a pleasure to meet you also. Yes, absolutely.
This is
amazing. I am going to bring up our last but not least, our actor Star Trek actor guest, Blue Del Barrio. They hails from Southern California, where he grew up in the hills of Topanga Canyon. His journey in the performing arts began at the age of 7, leading him to pursue studies at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. Following his graduation, Del Barrio landed their television debut role as a series regular portraying Adira in Star Trek Discovery. This casting made Blue one of the 2 first trans and non-binary actors to join the esteemed Star Trek universe franchise, spanning both TV series and movies. Blue embraces the responsibility of portraying trans and non-binary characters on screen with the aim of increasing visibility and representation for the trans community. We're going to talk about that in depth tonight. Most recently, Blue played Jesse in an upcoming Dave Bautista action pick, Trap House, and is currently voicing the character of Max in Nickelodeon's Max and the Midnights. Blue, welcome to the stage.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm terrible at reading things off screens.
No, that was great.
Excited to have this conversation. It's Tuesday. So first of all, I just wanted to start off and warm things up by asking, what did Star Trek mean to all of you? I want to start with Blue, actually. So what did Star Trek mean to you before you joined the cast? You did say in a previous interview that Deep Space Nine was particularly inspirational for you, maybe as a trans person, but also in trying to embody the role of Adira. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I, embarrassingly so, did not grow up with Trek. At all. I'd seen absolutely nothing, and so it was, but at the same time, how insane and magical to get notified about being able to do this role and then just get absolutely thrown headfirst into everything that there is within this entire universe. And I had people telling me from every direction what was their favorite show, episodes, everything. So I kind of just went into a hole and watched so much. But yeah, Deep Space Nine was probably my favorite and still is. I think there's just something really, really, really special that got captured there. And yeah, it was also very influential with kind of thinking about and discovering stuff for Adira. So I love Deep Space Nine.
DS9, a fan favorite.
Yeah.
Michelle, now you as a showrunner, you've had to take on a lot for the show. It's not just that you're embodying one character, you are taking on show Bibles and lore and, the fandom, good and bad, for what it's worth. So what
60 years of canon.
60 years of canon, which is no small feat.
No.
So tell me, what was your relationship to Star Trek? Were you a Star Trek fan before you started working on the show?
Yeah, I grew up watching the original series, which I just loved. And I was always I was always the kid who was looking up into the stars anyway. And when I found Star Trek, it just really spoke to me. I loved it. I loved the adventures. I loved the optimism and the hope in that. And it actually wasn't until later that I started to discover the other iterations of Star Trek. But then when I had the opportunity to come on to Discovery, initially I was on staff, and then Alex asked me to run it with him starting in season 3. It was such a privilege and responsibility, and I just I mean, I made a joke about like the 60 years of canon, but it is such a beloved franchise, and just making sure that we would honor that while continuing to push it forward. It was really a dream.
That's beautiful. I'm going to flip to Jonathan and ask, so Jonathan, you said, I don't want to spoil your answer, but you came into Star Trek kind of late in the game, but for a few different reasons. So if you'd like to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I was introduced. Well, I did. It's impossible not to know about Star Trek if you in this world.
I did not hearing about.
So I knew about Star Trek since I was a very young child. But really, it's the difference between knowing Star Trek and then coming into the Trekkie fandom. I became a fan through the Roddenberry Fellowship and through learning about the legacy of Gene Roddenberry as a Roddenberry Fellow. And it was really when someone introduced the concept of IDIC to me, infinite diversity, infinite combinations, that my mind was truly blown. Like, yes, this is home. This is the community for me. Thinking, I co-founded an organization called Black Youth Project 100, and we do all of our organizing and activism work through what we call a Black queer feminist lens. And this is the applicability of IDIC in the real organizing world, in the movement for Black lives. So just the pure, beloved, intersectional greatness of knowing that we have multiple modalities of our identities that we want to show up with that are complex and beautiful. And we want to build a world where we can feel safe in all of these identities. So what I'm so impressed by of this 60 years of canon is the importance of narrative power. So much of mainstream media only focuses on struggle, death, crisis. And there are just so many beautiful moments throughout the Star Trek canon that focuses on joy, that focuses on telling stories that are centered on building a culture of self-love and self-determination. And just the last thing I'll say is shout out to Star Trek for centering queer and trans communities, for centering people of color. And they're not new to that centering. They're not doing that because it's the latest cool thing to do. They're doing that because that is built into the value system of Star Trek. That is IDIC.
Thank you for defining IDIC for anyone who somehow is a Star Trek fan, is living under a rock and doesn't know what IDIC is, or is just curious and tuning in. So I want to actually talk about that history. You said that this is not something that's new. Obviously Blue is kind of part of a much longer legacy, and Adira by extension is part of a much longer legacy of LGBTQ representation in Star Trek. I want to jump to Michelle just to see, how much you knew about this or if you had a relationship to this, but that the fandom is incredibly gay, incredibly trans. What? You're like, what? No.
You tell me this now? Wait, no,
I was just wondering what's your relationship to that? I mean, did you come with that sort of that history, or with that, maybe that the show, maybe the ins and outs of the show, but did you know the ins and outs of the fandom? Like the idea that Dax is essentially a metaphor, an allegory for being trans, or that, Kirk Spock was the first, ship. Popular ship.
Yeah. I did know that coming in. I mean, and one of the things that I loved about, again, I grew up with the original series, but one of the things I loved about it was the diversity of the characters and the way they were able to tell certain stories via aliens. Mm-hmm. That you wouldn't otherwise see. So I loved that about it. And then I wasn't again, it took until I was a bit older to get into the other shows because I just wasn't as familiar. But when I started on the show, I started learning much more about the fandom. And I think, you know, it's really the fans that have kept the franchise going. There are so many, like, for a franchise, a series that continues building on the series before to last over 60 years is unheard of. You know, has there been another franchise that's done it? I don't know. And I think the reason for that is that it represents the world we want to see. And that's baked into the DNA of any given Star Trek show, because of what Gene Roddenberry created back when he first started the Star Trek show. So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No,
that,
you know, were you like in? This is a very personal question. Like, did you know about Kirk, Spock? Were you like reading the zines when you were a kid? You know, is that something that?
No, I didn't know anything about myself when I was a kid. So I was not. I was a gay kid who didn't know that. But again, it was the. I don't know. For me, it was the hope and optimism. But as I got into Discovery, and started working on this show, you know, we have a Black female lead. She was the first Black female captain. Well, at the time when she started, she wasn't a captain, but the show is centered around Sonequa, and what an amazing thing to get to go into that and to be part of telling stories for her. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to the questions that you're going to ask a little bit later, but we'll get to the Adira / Blue of it all later. But I was aware of that, and as a member of the community myself, also felt a huge responsibility to continue pushing that forward and to do so in a way that was authentic to those characters and the actors who would play them.
Right on. I think on that note, I do want to talk a little bit to Blue about, you know, your experience. I'm sure this is the thing that came up in all of the press about your involvement on the show and then your journey. And I'm sure you've done a lot of interviews about it. But, you know, I just wanted to ask you about how did the character of Adira, how did the journey of portraying the first non-binary Star Trek cast member or character translate to your real life? How did it encourage you and inspire you?
Yeah. Oof. I'm going to try to make a long story really short, but
No, short story long, please.
Short story long. I mean, I kind of came out when I was a kid, like 7 or 8, without having the language. And that did not go very well, and as well as it could have, and kind of put myself back in the closet for a super long time. And it wasn't until I was close to graduating college conservatory, when I was like 21, close to 22, that I started feeling, I mean, I'd been feeling really stifled for a really long time, and the only outlet that I had was theater and performance, which was the case my whole life. But that was the only place that I felt like I could be what I needed to be and be what I wanted to be. And so it wasn't like, I think without that, I might have hit my breaking point a lot sooner. But I started to hit a breaking point definitely at the end of college. And I got extremely lucky with this show, and this character and the whole team and Michelle and the cast and everybody, because I was just at the beginning really of my transition. Like I had really just talked to my 2 housemates when I was living back in London about a lot of my discomfort with my name and possibly wanting to try different pronouns. And it was very, very, very on the down low, and no one else knew about it. My agent, very quietly, who somehow knew before I did, started asking if I was comfortable auditioning for non-binary roles. And I was like, yeah, think so. So it was like very much like a secret. I wouldn't have minded if anybody asked me, but I was still really figuring myself out. And this role happened just as I was like getting to my graduation. And that made it sort of terrifying because it was suddenly like, oh no, so I need to be fully actualized right now. And I had it, my idea of transition has changed a lot for the better, but where I was with the little information I had and with this not really a good queer community around me, it was sort of like, oh, so wait, I need to be at the end. Like I need to be at the finish point. There's like it's a transition and you get to a finish point. And so it was a lot of imposter syndrome when I got the role of like, but I'm not at the finish point. I'm at the very beginning.
Has that changed, in the years since you got the role?
Yeah, fully, because I started out, full transparency, and also because Michelle worked with me so much on this character, Adira started out as she, they, because that's where I was. And I'm now primarily a he, him. I never thought that I'd have top surgery. I never thought that I'd be on hormones. All that changed over time. And it might change again in the future. Like I don't think there is an end point, and that's so much more beautiful to me and comfortable. And I feel like it would be how amazing if everybody could start there. Of like, there's no end point. We have a long life, and stuff changes. We change a lot as people, and so I don't really know where I'm gonna end up. I know this is where I am right now, but to the question, yeah, mainly what helped me a lot was the entire team around Discovery and the cast. I don't know that I would have gotten through it without driving myself crazy, without the incredible cast of a lot of queer actors that we have, when I didn't really have, I didn't have any trans friends. And then I suddenly was presented with Ian Alexander, who is like the best possible mentor to have in that situation. Ian, who came out extremely young, has dealt with so much in their life and was working from such a young age, kind of had gone through all of it, everything that I was afraid of going through. So having that, having Wilson and Anthony, and having Michelle and the whole team working with me creatively, directly, like, I feel like I got really lucky, but I also feel like that's just Trek. Like, I feel like that was what I walked into, is a place where people really care about the people that they're hiring and bringing on and working with. So yeah, I tried to make that as short and concise as possible.
Well, short story long, but we love it. I think that, Blue, what you said speaks to sort of a broader challenge for actors and people in the public eye, because for most people, coming out, you think of coming out as something that you do once, maybe, like if you don't know anything about it, and then you realize like, oh, I have to come out again and again and again to different people in different ways, and you don't know what the reaction is going to be. You don't know how people will respond. And so for you, it must have been so challenging, because this is just who you are in the public eye. I mean, in one sense, it's like you've come out once, I guess. But in the other sense, it's probably a lot of pressure. So
yeah, it is a strange world to be in, but I'm also very proud of it.
Yeah,
and I have a lot of like anger and distrust from childhood reactions that I'm trying to spin into something useful now, having any kind of a platform, even if it's small. Like, I don't know, the fact that I got to be on TV, being who I am and sharing that publicly, and the fact that it's happening more and more is crazy. And like, I didn't even start to think about the possibility of being trans non-binary until I saw somebody when I was older on television who was. And that, so I mean, that's directly like living proof of how big of an impact that is.
Yeah,
like you need that.
Yeah. By the way, quick note. So if you're watching this, you can probably see that if you leave a comment for us, especially a very nice comment, we might feature it on the live stream. So please send in some nice comments, questions, whatever you'd like to share. Positive, loving, found family type things. please. But we're going to get back to the character of Adira and Blue's work in a bit. I do want to jump to Jonathan, because Jonathan, though you don't work on Star Trek, you do something very similar to Blue and to Michelle, which is that you are cultivating a space of joyful activism and joy through art. Can you talk a little bit about the ways that your community and your work is helping people create found families or to, find acceptance?
Yeah, so one of the things I do under being director of culture of Black Youth Project 100 and a founder of Liberation House is we created something called the Keeping Ballroom Community Alive Network. And this is, if anyone knows House and Ballroom Community, I am a member of this community. I'm in the House of Garçon. Some people might know the TV show Pose, or you might have seen Legendary on HBO, or you might have heard of many other instances of my community in pop culture. But we are here. We are a community that believes in joy as an act of resistance. We were created and founded by Black queer women. Black woman named Crystal Abeja created this international house and ballroom community. So joy is really at the center of so much of the work that we do. At BYP 100, we created something called the Black Joy Experience, which is it's an album, it's a musical, it is graphics, it is a way of life almost. But we consider joy to literally be an act of resisting state violence and an act of resisting white supremacy. We also know that joy is essential. I consider myself to be an Afrofuturist, and I want to think about intergalactic futures that allow us to dream and be imaginative and live out worlds that we have not yet discovered or known. So right in the tradition of Star Trek. So I truly believe that joy is also essential to the abolitionist Afrofuturist world that I want to live in. We want to use Black joy as a way to think creatively about how do we live outside of fear, outside of punishment, outside of policing, and most importantly, how do we offer to the world an example of a world that's rooted in care, creativity, connection, and love. So as we're centering joy as a rigorous practice, it is not apolitical, it is intentional for us to center joy as a liberatory practice for queer folks, for Black folks, for marginalized people of all types to be free, even as we're navigating institutional and systemic oppression. And we know that in the world we're living in today, this becomes more relevant now than in many eras that came before then. But we are reaching back to the queer and trans ancestors that came before us, and we are building on the power and the lessons that they taught us so that we're able to tap into a joy that is not able to be extinguished by any political power that might not see my identity and might not see my fullness of life.
Right on. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'll let you go for a bit. So to give fuller context, we talked about your work. We didn't really talk early on about your role within the Roddenberry community, because we were talking about Star Trek over here, and then we're talking about your work over here. And I'm just like, if I'm watching this, I'm like, well, what does Star Trek have to do with ballroom? Now, wouldn't you, by the way, love to see the cast of Star Trek do like ballroom, do like a voguing?
There's something to that.
Yeah, I'm imagining it, and that is an episode of Star Trek that would be very fun, like a historical look back, kind of like how other, there are various versions of Star Trek that go back into the 20th century, 19th century. I want to see that. But in terms of your role within the Roddenberry community, you were a 2018 Roddenberry Fellow. That was I guess 7-8 years ago at this point, but that doesn't mean that, you're not still part of the community. Roddenberry, from what I've learned about the fellowship, attending the fellowship retreat, Roddenberry is really forever once you're part of the community. So can you tell me about what the Roddenberry ethos and the community means to you, and how do you collaborate with other grantees, because, by the way, there's such a wide range of issues that you focus on, but they all seem to be interconnected around this idea of shared humanity and advancing our equality.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just think of the Roddenberry ethos of being one that is rooted in the revolutionary power of relationships and networks. So there's over 100 brilliant Roddenberry Fellows existing around the world, making change in local, state, federal, and international ways. And it's just a beloved community. It's a community of founders. So we all founded one or many organizations that are movement organizations. And really, for me, the goal is to change the material conditions of people's lives. We're trying to build power to make sure that people are able to joyfully live out their self-determined lives without limitations and without barriers. And if that's not right smack dab in the history and legacy of Gene Roddenberry and of the Trek fans all around the world, this is the work that we do. We are inherently organizers. We are people that believe in lifting up the stories of those who are oppressed, of those who have been left out, of those who haven't been central to the conversation. And it is within that legacy that in this particular time, we want to make sure that we send moments of care, support, love, but most importantly, I think we want to spread, as Roddenberry Fellows around the world, messages of hope. It's very, very easy to fall into despair in this political climate during the many genocides that are taking place around the world right now. So the work we're doing is one of hope. When I look at the different Roddenberry Fellows and when I think about the network, it is a very tight-knit network. We come together on a yearly basis and get to know each other and get to know the new class of fellows that are coming in. And it truly is about supporting each other, helping each other, lifting each other up, and making sure, most importantly, that we're changing the material conditions of people's lives through love and hope.
That's a beautiful answer. And I liked, we're getting a lot of really great comments. I liked Derek's comment that we just shared. Conversations like this is how we build the positive and inclusive Star Trek future we all desire. Just so you know, spoiler alert, we will have some time to talk about how you can actually be involved as a Trekkie, how you can mobilize, support your queer and trans and non-binary neighbors and friends, and how you can be part of this amazing community and help do the work. But now I want to jump to Blue and Michelle in terms of this sort of shared journey that you have in creating a character. I think a lot of people, you know, obviously, Michelle, you were a showrunner, so you were working on a number of different things. Blue, your focus was a little bit more specific to a particular character. But a lot of people don't know how much building a character is kind of a conversation between the writer and the actor who embodies the character. So I'd love, you know, whichever one of you wants to go first, I'd love to hear more about that process of creating the character.
Well, I guess I'll start like the pre-Adira, and then we'll get into the Adira. For those of you who might not have seen the show, Adira was the name of his character on the show. Coming into, well, this is a bit, I'm going to answer a bit more. Oh, thanks, TJ. I'm going to answer a bit more than you actually asked for. But I think it's germane to this conversation, and I think it's very important, especially because I'm not non-binary or trans, nor is Alex Kurtzman, who's the Star Trek guru. And so when he asked me to help him run Discovery for season 3, one of the first things we did was have a conversation just about Trek in general, and the ways in which the different iterations of Trek continue to push things forward in terms of representation. And as Blue alluded to earlier, we had space dads. They weren't yet space dads on the show, but we already had some out gay actors on the show, and Alex and I talked about okay, so the show is going to jump forward in time. We will be losing some characters. We'll have the opportunity to bring on some new characters. Thanks, Brian. It's nice how they pop up. It's like one of those old VH1, like behind the
Pop-up
music
video.
pop-up videos.
We need some fun gay or trans Star Trek facts, if anyone has.
There you go. We talked about who is not represented or who has not been represented. We have an opportunity to bring on some new characters. Who have we not seen as fully themselves? You alluded earlier to Dax. There are characters who have approximated or inched close to, but then not quite been. And so we knew even before we started talking about or developing these characters that we wanted to bring on a trans character and a non-binary character. And as we started to develop that and started to cast, again, I'll go back to the comment earlier that that's not a journey that I personally have been on, nor is it a journey that Alex has been on, but it is essential to cast actors who have been, or in Blue's case, were on the journey, and also to have support from someone who is on that journey and who has worked with other shows to help make sure that the voice of the characters and the situations feel authentic. So if I remember correctly, even before Blue and Ian came on board, we were working with Nick Adams at GLAAD to just start the process. And then when I'll just talk about Blue since Ian isn't here, but we did this with him as well. When Blue came on board, it became, and then I'll toss it to you, and then you talk about it from the actor side. Tell me to shut up at any point, Sabrina. I sometimes
No.
Like, spin a little bit.
This is the stuff that Trekkies want to hear.
Okay.
Like process,
Excellent.
Anything that they've never heard before about the making of Star Trek.
Okay. Well, process-wise, we had Nick Adams on board from the get-go, and over the course of seasons 3, 4, and 5, we had him at all of the, like, we would send him all the scripts, or we would pitch him the ideas. We had him at all the important stages. And then once Blue came on board, again, it was essential to have those conversations with him to, as he said originally, he was in a different place at the beginning of the journey. And Alex and I did not want to have the character get ahead of anything. So we started where we started, and then it became a conversation. And then I'll stop talking, and Blue, you take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, it was hugely a surprise to me that you both came to me and wanted to figure it out together. I didn't think that that's how, this was the first like real professional job I had, and I also just didn't think that that's how it happened. Like, I didn't, and I think in a lot of cases it's not.
Yeah,
there are. That's more of the reality, is that you don't really get a say in it. So I was kind of terrified, but the fact that you and Alex came to me and Nick also came to me, and it was kind of a complete collaboration, and I saw how much like care there was around where I was at, and what I was going through was like massive. And whole thing felt very lucky. Like, I don't feel like you really find that anywhere else on any other shows. Like, it's just not like that. But I'm really grateful for that and those early conversations, because of how scared I was to be doing this and to kind of just be like in the spotlight, really doing all of this on television. I'm so happy that it got to be more of a genuine like image of what I was going through, and that I was allowed to kind of grow with Adira and alongside that character, because it helped me through my own transition, and I think I needed that in a way. And so it was really special. I do wish that every show who has like trans or queer characters gets treated the same way. I don't think that's the case, but I'm really happy that this family and this like Discovery community, like you guys let me do that and wanted to collaborate with me in that way, because it was really helpful. And that continued. Like we kept working with GLAAD. I love Nick Adams. He's amazing and introduced me to my best friend and cares about Trek so much.
Yeah.
Is a huge Trekkie himself. And we had been talking about, because I didn't know if I was going to go on hormones, and decided that was at some point something that I really needed to do, as well as having top surgery. And Nick and I sat down and discussed the possibilities of the future of which would have been really cool if we got to keep going with the show, of what would that look like? How would that look like at this point in the future with transition, which I still think about, because that conversation was really fun. But yeah.
It was really now I'm reading things. I'm gonna stop reading things. I think you're right that that's not something. I wish that it would happen on all of these shows or any show, but I think one of the reasons that the characters of Adira and Gray, played by Blue and Ian, have resonated so strongly is because I dare say, because of that collaboration, they feel authentic. Like I remember there's in episode or in season 3, there's a scene where your character Paul Stamets says uses she or her, something like that, and then there's a moment where your character says, well, I don't feel like a she or a her, I feel like a they them. And I remember where I was when I pitched you the scene, and that's part of the collaboration. Like I felt like I could call Blue and say, hey, here's this pivotal scene for your character. How does that feel to you? How does that sound to you? How does does that ring true? And to be able to have a conversation to make sure ahead of time, so that we're not getting to set and then, or Blue's not getting a script and then going, ooh. We had a similar thing in season 4 with Ian, where there was a speech that his character made that was essentially talking about being trans, but not talking about being trans, but in the Trek way. And it was the same thing. And I'm just, I'm forever grateful for Nick and Blue and Ian being you were like, to collaborate with you on that, and to be able to have those conversations, and to trust that if something wasn't ringing true, that you would say something, because you are the face of that character, and you have to go, and people come to you with their own stories. And I think one of the beautiful things about Trek is that it is so inclusive, and it's a safe space for people. Whoever you are, however you are, there's probably something that represents you, and that's such a cool thing. And we all of us wanted to do right by that. And Blue's commitment, I'm talking about you like you're not here, you're right there. Your commitment to having that be authentic, and your willingness to be emotionally vulnerable in what you yourself at the time were going through, and to allow that to be reflected in your character, set the stage for a scene like that. It would not have happened without your willingness for that to happen. And that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to me, because people watch that now and it makes a difference. As we've been talking about, being seen makes a difference. Like what you see on television. Mae Jemison saw someone who looked like her as a in science chair, and went on, and she's an astronaut. And we were at a panel one time, and she was listening in, and we were talking about Mae Jemison, and she said hi, and I like,
Oh my
it was at a Comic-Con thing. I know, I almost like I fell out of my like I can't even speak about it right now. It was just so much. But anyway,
wow, that is so exciting. I would be freaking out too. So. Anyway, by the way, I was trying not to distract Michelle too much with all these.
I'm like a cat, and it's like the red dot, and all of a sudden I'm ready to go. I like, where's the red dot?
Yes. Well, you're a writer, so naturally you're a reader, and I can just see you like,
Sorry, everybody.
So Paul actually brings up a very important point. Actually, first of all, I want to pause and say, if you have questions, we're going to answer a few, very short Q&A. So please get your questions ready, post them now so we can sort through them. It could be about, LGBTQ art and Trek. It could be about Star Trek Discovery. It could be about the making of Star Trek. It could be about Jonathan's work and Ballroom and Black queer feminist joy, like all of that. Please send in your questions. But for now, we're going to talk about some of the hard stuff before we wind down, as we do. So, our last event, our first event in the series, was creating the Star Trek future in a time of crisis. We are very clearly not having a great time right now. And I think that is not, it is felt especially in queer and trans communities, especially for Black and brown queer and trans people, and especially because of a number of pieces of legislation and backlash against trans and non-binary youth in particular. So that's all very heavy stuff. But what I'd like to ask is, Jonathan, what are you seeing happening in your communities? How is your community resisting and fighting back? And what's one thing, like if you're watching this and you don't know what to do, what's one thing that someone can do to support your community and your organization?
Thank you for this question. We're absolutely, sometimes it feels like we're living in the end of times. Luckily, we are living in space and time where there will be more, and we will persist, and we will continue. There's a lot of things that communities are doing on the ground. One, really trying to make sure we are protecting our communities from all of the multitudes of harm. It seems like harm and institutional and state violence are really coming in from all angles. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we're keeping our people safe and connected. This is why the House and Ballroom community is so powerful. House and Ballroom serves as a system of liberation in contestation to systems of oppression. So when queer and trans people in House and Ballroom community are experiencing homelessness, and they might go into a transitional living program and get mispronounced, misgendered, House Ballroom serves as a response to homelessness. House and Ballroom serves as a response to people who might need support with healthcare, for people who might need to recreate their families. So the first thing is protection and trying to make sure we're building support systems to keep our people safe from the most visceral forms and violent forms of harm, unimaginable violence that are taking place in our politics today. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say to really support this community, please look up byp100.org. This is a membership-based organization of young Black folks doing direct action organizing, transformative leadership development, advocacy, and education through a Black queer feminist lens. And I am just inspired by that community, and I'm inspired by the Roddenberry Fellows around the country that are just, it's hard to lose hope when you're seeing so many inspirational people at a grassroots level making change, one individual at a time, one law at a time, one political education session at a time. So my request, my ask is to reach out to a local organization, look up the list of Roddenberry Fellows on the Roddenberry Foundation's website and see the amazing work that we are up to. But yeah, now is really the time. I really think of this framework of doing cultural organizing. I define cultural organizing as the strategic use of art and culture to shift policy and practice. It is the cultural organizers, it is the artists, it is the writers, it is the dreamers, it is the Trekkies that will be able to creatively design the world that we need, the world that does not currently exist. It is this space and this time that allows us to tap into our radical imagination and dream something up that doesn't currently exist in our world. So I'm encouraged by this community. I'm encouraged by the creatives, by the thinkers, and by those who aren't afraid to radically imagine something radically different than what we have today. And that's exciting for me. I always say the Latin roots of the word radical is radicalis, which simply means getting to something at the root. So we have to fight institutional oppression at the roots. We have to fight white supremacy at the roots. And we have to live out IDIC. We have to lean into infinite diversity, infinite combinations. The more specific we get, the closer we'll get to truth.
Beautiful. Michelle and Blue, I know that you're more on the arts and entertainment Hollywood side than the activism side per se. And I honor and respect the fact that I think for a lot of people, you know, you're just trying to work, you're trying to, you know, get the next job and figure out what you're doing. But I know that you both take this work very seriously and you have a lot that you hope to share with the world, you know, in terms of representation. So I guess my question for you is, you know, what is one thing you hope viewers take away from this, like, you know, your work during these times, during a time of crisis?
I mean, I think it's been a little weird to be in this position in like our current climate, because it does, like you said, Jonathan, feel like the end times. And it's rough because at many times I get drawn into kind of a dark place of like, oh, what I do isn't really, it's not enough, it's not helping anybody, but it
no, but it is, it really is.
But that's like the other side is like entertainment has grown so massive globally. TV shows and movies have grown. I mean, that is what people do when they go home. And I don't think we realize how much what we watch affects us, even if it's just, you know, just something, a guilty pleasure show. It doesn't matter what you're watching. It is affecting you at a lot of different levels. And I think that's what puts me back into the mindset of, no, this is really important. And especially right now when things are getting pulled off the air or canceled or completely shut down, fewer characters of color or trans and queer characters are being written or being greenlit. I see that, and we see that, and I want to bring more awareness to that, and I want to do as much as I can in the position that I'm in to combat it. And there's little things I do on my own time of you know, trying to reach out to casting for certain things and asking if they'd be comfortable making this maybe cis character a trans character, or if they'd be comfortable, you know, making changes. And that's at times scary, but it feels good to be able to do at least that. And I know that any minority group being on screen at all is making a massive change. And I've seen it when we go to conventions and when we have panels. Like I've seen it and I feel it. And it was the same for me growing up. I felt it when I would see something on screen. And at the same time, like, being in the entertainment industry gives you at different levels a bit of a platform. I have a very small platform, but I feel a huge responsibility to use it. And get very upset with people who have very huge platforms and don't use it. I think it's a huge waste, but I'm happy and I'm grateful that I get to participate in the activism that I do through that platform that was given to me by Star Trek. to use that for like grassroots organizations here in LA and also around the US right now, where we're like living in hell. But like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. Michelle, and then we're going to jump. I think we have a really great question for the Q&A right now. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to jump in. But as we're winding down, what is your thing that you're hoping to do right now, or that you want people who consume your work to do? You know, how do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do in response?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know that I could say it any better than my two friends here. I think it's such a shitty time. Like, I just try, like, there's no sugarcoating that. For me, I'm looking, like, I look for the helpers, and I try to be a helper in whatever way I can. By the way, Blue, I love that you're calling casting directors and asking about that. Like, yes, like, it doesn't, like, unless there's a, like, why not? Like, that's amazing. That's wonderful. That is active. For me, I just am, you know, as Blue was alluding to, oh, thanks, Joey.
Yeah, I thought, you know, it's a shitty time, but this is a really nice comment. So
thank you. It is, and and it's not all shitty. I think in darkness we create light and we find light. Yes. And God, Jonathan, I'm so impressed with the stuff that you're doing. Like, when you were just talking about bringing joy and finding joy, I felt happier just hearing that. And Blue, like, reaching out to casting directors, like, that's awesome. I look for ways, like, here and now, to feel and be inspired. And in my own work, I continue to try and work on things that resonate to me personally. And part of what resonates is trying to write characters and create characters that reflect the world that I live in and the world that I see. So I'm continuing to try and do that, and continuing to be mindful of that, and mindful that I don't lose sight of the power of media. It makes a difference what we see, even when it's, as Blue was saying, even when it's comfort food, essentially. Comfort food is comforting for a reason. I don't know. I'm trying to, for me, maintain hope, continue to write stories that are meaningful in whatever way, even if it's comfort food meaningful. Mm-hmm. And then on my own, I'm trying to participate and try and make my little corner of LA a better place, and help those I can help. I feel like that's, if we can, there's something that we can all do. Not everyone has a massive platform. Not everyone has a lot of money to donate to something. Not everyone has a lot of time to give. But we can all do something, even if the something that you do is saying hello to an unhoused person who gets, like, 0 eye contact from people in any given day. Like, you know, being kind. I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now, but
well, here's another comment.
Here's my thanks.
That's fantastic. And I want to say there's something, we kind of haven't really addressed it, but one of the reasons it's really important for the Roddenberry Foundation and Roddenberry Entertainment to host these conversations and be part of these conversations is because of the way that it makes you feel when you're here, hearing from other people and meeting. And I think one thing that came up after our last call with Tim Russ and a bunch of grantees was that wasn't mentioned on screen, was just the connection and wanting to exchange info and just being on one another's radar and having hope, knowing, hey, that person is out there doing this work. And it's just been so inspiring to be part of it and be a bit of a matchmaker in the activist sense. So that's been exciting. We have one quick question, and then I think I'm going to ask you what you're working on these days. So very short answer from each person. What do you think people and society as a whole could learn from Star Trek? Jonathan, as a newer fan, I'd love to start with you.
Sure. Off the top of my head, while I'm thinking about the answer right now, I'm going to answer it now. What people in society as a whole could learn from Star Trek. I really do think there's something to Star Trek about two things, actually. One, I'm thinking a lot about how easily we dispose of people. So it's around this idea and discourse of the politics of disposability and the importance of not doing that, of holding the full humanity of all of us on this earth today. So that's the first very quickly simple answer. The second one I'll give, I just think the legacy of Star Trek platforming communities that have often gone unheard and unlistened to, and narratives that have not been central to the culture in this country. I think we all need to take that as a lesson and make that interwoven into whatever work you're able to do, regardless of the work that you do.
Amazing. Blue, do you have a response based on your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I really hard echo to everything Jonathan just said.
You say same if you want.
And also, I think the easy answer is like how easy it is. Like a lot of, funnily enough, ironically, when there's sort of hateful comments from like Trek fans, it will be around the lines of, why do we have to talk about it? They don't talk about it in the show. Like nobody is like bringing up anything, And I'm like, well, it's how, do you see how easy it is? we don't start shit like that. Do you see how easy this is? You watch it because it's like an idealized future of what we want to have. Does it look that difficult? Really? How people are interacting with each other? Just with like sincerity and transparency and respect. Like it's really not that hard. And it's throughout all of the Trek shows. Like it's I don't know. That's the easy answer, but yeah, how simple it is.
Yeah. And Michelle.
I echo what they both said. I mean, I think, speaking to today, I think one of the other, yes and yes to that.
Same and same.
Same and same. Ditto, ditto. I think one of the other things that we can take away is, not every Trek also portrays hard times and dark times. But the thing about it is that Trek doesn't live there. It acknowledges all the shows, the movies. There's an acknowledgement. This messed up thing happened, or there was this difficult time, or we're having a difficult time right now. I'm going back to something I said before, but the optimism of it, that we will come through, and there is another side. There's the beyond right now, and that we are all responsible for helping us get beyond and get to that better place. And whether it's something that we're doing in a big way or a small way, there is reason for hope, and we can get there. To me, that's the lesson. Is, joking aside, it is a shitty time, but we're not going to stay here, and not every day is that. And I think I just look at all of the people doing such amazing work and such good things. Like I just want to give a quick shout. There's this organization in LA called Food on Foot that has been doing it for, I'm going to get the number, 20 years or something. Every single weekend they're out there giving food and necessities to those who need it. And they've been doing it for so long. They're, I'm after this, I want to go back and look at the Roddenberry Fellows, and because I want to find out what they're all doing. There are people doing good things, and good things that they never get attention for. There's animal rescues and people who are calling ahead and warning when ice is coming right now, so that members of our community can stay safe. And little things, those are big things, but it doesn't take much, as Blue was saying, it doesn't take much to do those things. It doesn't take much to help protect another person. And that's part of what Trek is, and we can all do that.
All right. Well, we're getting so many amazing, encouraging comments. And I love this last one. Thank you for giving hope to my adult kids in the community. They see you and they see a promise of a future. Well, this will not be the last time we gather to talk about the Star Trek future and how we're building it together. But this is time to wrap up. So I would love to ask each of you to share a project that you're working on and where we can follow you. We'll start with Jonathan.
Sure. People can find me on Instagram at j.lykes, j.lykes. I do a lot of different things in life. Just reading my bio, it's like 4 or 5 different things happening all at the same time there. But again, I think the love affair organization of my life is Black Youth Project 100, BYP 100, where I currently serve as director of culture. And one thing that we are launching in that space is a local digital magazine out of one of our chapters, our Jackson, Mississippi chapter. Mississippi is a place that is constantly disinvested, constantly ignored, constantly left out of a lot of conversations. So just shout out to our members who live there. Please go to blacklifeeverywhere.com to see previous issues of our digital magazine. And we just want to send love and investment into the people who just consistently don't get centered in the conversation. So please look up byp100.org and see the amazing work that young Black youth are doing around the country to live out our wildest dreams and to fight for Black queer feminist futures. Thank you, everyone. It's been a joy to be here with you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And Blue, you have a movie coming up. Tell us about that or anything else you want to share, and if we should follow you online and where.
Yeah. I did a film called Trap House that I think is coming out in November. I'm pretty sure. I believe so. Yeah, but I get to play a really cool guy in that. That is really awesome, and like for me, first time being able to do that on screen, which is really cool. And I'm also the voice of Max and Max and the Midnights, which is a kids animated show on Nickelodeon that I really love and have been kind of a part of for like 5 years. And our whole first season just came out, so that's there. And other than that, I'm really only on Instagram, BlueDelB, BLUDELB. Yeah, I'm around.
Great. And Michelle, where can we follow your work and check out what you're doing, and what are you working on these days?
Well, I too am on Instagram. I am probably much less of a poster than my two colleagues here. I'm really horrible at posting things. But when I'm working on something, I post a lot. So feel free to go there and find me. I still, I need to do more. But anyway, what am I working on? I am is where you work on pitches and try to sell shows, and you drink a lot of coffee, you cry into your pillow, and you wait anxiously next to the phone in case it's going to ring and you're going to get news. So that's what I'm doing. But I do want to put in a plug. I had the privilege of helping out a bit with a new Star Trek show that is going to be coming out called Starfleet Academy.
Woo!
And
anything, can you tell us anything?
I cannot tell you anything, except what I can tell you is that Alex and Noga, who's running it with him, and the entire team have done an incredible job. It's a really good show, and I think you guys are going to love it. If I'm not mistaken, they're going to be at Comic-Con this weekend. I believe some of the actors will be there as well. And you have to watch it when it comes out. It's an awesome show. It's an awesome show. So, yeah,
Right
I'm a fan.
on. Well, I think we all will be. So thank you so much, everyone. And of course, you can follow me at Sabrina Cartan on Instagram. And then you can, of course, follow the Roddenberry Foundation on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. We are at the Roddenberry Foundation. We'll pull up the info, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.